Okay, Chapter 2 of the Life of Krishna, the Birth of the Unborn. At this auspicious time, in the pitch darkness of midnight, Lord Vishnu, who is the resident within all hearts, who is the resident within the hearts of all creatures, was born of the divinely beautiful Devaki, like the full moon rising in the eastern horizon. And that's from the Sri Ram Bhagavatam. With the approach of the most auspicious time, when the star Rohini was in the ascendant, and all the other stars and planets were in favorable positions, Janardana, the Lord, who takes away the pangs of birth and death, the eternal, the immortal, the one without birth, chose to be born as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. Peaceful silence reigned in all quarters. The stars shone clear in the sky. The rivers flowed with pellucid waters. The ponds were full of lotus blossoms. The woods were resonant with the chirping of the birds and the buzzing of the bees fluttering between the trees and creepers laden with flowers. Softly blew the breeze, dust free and fragrant, and gently glowed the fires in the sacrificial hearths of the holy. An ineffable peace stole into the minds of all men. The time was approaching midnight, and many jewels spouted in the bowels of the earth. All the birds woke up and started crooning softly. The sun and the moon both peeped out with their full complement of stars, among which the star Rohini was the brightest. This special conjunction of the eighth day moon with the constellation Rohini heralded the birth of the Lord. Muddy waters became clear, springs gushed forth, and the waves of the sea came rushing into the land to try to present themselves at the spot where the divine drama was about to commence. Little breezes carrying the sweet perfume of 1,000,000 newly opened blossoms thrust their way into the dungeon and played with the curls around Devaki's head as she lay in labor. Noble people everywhere were wide awake, for they felt as if something momentous was about to take place. The wicked slept in the sleep of the dead. In fact, Kamsa had never slept so soundly since the day of the prophecy. And as for the guards, they were snoring so loudly that nothing short of an earthquake would have awakened them. The Creator Brahma and the other celestials entered the labor room and hymned the Lord, whom they could see shining with Devaki's womb. The sages and the gods showered flowers from above. The clouds rumbled gently in tune with the sea. At such a time, in the pitch darkness of midnight, Vishnu, the resident in the hearts of all, was born of the divinely beautiful Devaki. At the moment of his birth, the prison was filled with a soft light, emanating from the babe himself. In that one brief instant when she held him in her arms, Devaki forgot the ordeal of the morrow, forgot the cruel death that awaited her child, and knew only the bliss of the mother as she holds her newborn in her arms. Vasudeva was in a trance of delight, for he saw before him that divine form that had glowed in his heart 10 months ago and had throbbed in Devaki's womb ever since. O lucky parents, what tortures would not one go through to have a sight like this? Lotus-eyed, four-armed, sporting the conch, mace, and other weapons with the luminous Shrivatsa mark and the shining jewel Kaustuba on his chest, wearing a yellow garment possessed of the majesty and grace of a rain cloud, locks gleaming with the luster of his diadem, earrings studded with precious gems, and bedecked with splendid ornaments. Such was the wondrous form, the divine child that appeared before him. Such was the wondrous form of the divine child that appeared before them. Realizing the child to be none other than Hari, the supreme being, Vasudeva prostrated himself before him and sang a hymn of praise. He gazed into those glorious eyes which were overflowing with love, and felt such waves of bliss washing over him that he could no longer keep his balance. Again and again he prostrated before this vision, knowing him to be indeed that formless Brahman extolled in the Vedas, which had taken on the form of his son. Then Devaki exclaimed, "You are verily Vishnu, the light spiritual, the unmanifest, the vast, the luminous. I take shelter in you, the supreme shelter. That thou who bear the whole universe within yourself should have taken birth in my small womb is part of your divine Leela, play. Your incomprehensible play by which you beguiled the entire creation." The Lord now spoke. "O great lady, having controlled your mind and meditated on me in your 2 previous births, you had repeatedly asked for the boon that I might be born as your son. It is in fulfillment of this request that I am now taking my 3rd birth in your womb as your son. I have given you a vision of my divine form so that you will recognize me. Meditate on me, therefore, as the Supreme Spirit and not merely as your son, and you will rise to higher states of consciousness and attain my state." Looking at his father, he continued, "Arise now and go to Gokula, to the house of the cowherd chief Nanda. His wife Yashoda has just given birth to a baby girl who is none other than my Yogamaya. Leave me there and bring her back." So saying, he turned into a newborn infant once again, and the veil of Maya descended on his parents. Vasudeva was in a hurry to be off, but Devaki refused to be hurried. Who can blame her? Once having taken him in embrace, who is it that can bear to let him go? Happily he went to sleep in her arms. As she looked on entranced, reluctantly she relinquished this bundle of bliss into the anxious arms of her husband, who had been waiting for the opportunity to hold him to his heart. He had forgotten to ask how a prisoner could walk out of a dungeon at midnight and go to Gokula. But he rose up, he found that he was free. Wrapping the infant in his own upper garment, he held him tenderly to his heart and went toward the massive door of the prison, which was bolted and barred with iron. To his amazement, the bolts slid back, and the locks turned, and the chains fell softly, and the heavy doors swung outward of their own accord. Outside, the guards and the soldiers slumbered heavily, and no one woke as Vasudeva, with the baby Krishna nestling within his robes, passed into the open. Here there was a heavy storm. The winds raged, and his heart was heavy with a foreboding as he listened to the sound of the gushing waters of the river Yamuna in the distance, and wondered how he would ever be able to ford it and reach the other bank on such a night. But lo, as he stepped out, not a drop of rain fell on his head, for it was said that Shesha, the celestial serpent on whom the Lord Vishnu is said to rest, followed him with his hoods upraised, acting as a gigantic umbrella over the divine child. From the distance he saw the Yamuna rising in turbulent flood, but as he came nearer, the waters parted so that he walked across with only a trickle washing over his feet. The Yamuna wanted to have the honor of washing the blessed feet of the one who was lucky enough to carry the Lord. At last, Vasudeva came with his precious burden to the village of Gokula and to the dwelling place of Nanda, the chief of the cowherds. Softly the door of the farmhouse opened before him, and as he entered he saw a light burning within the doorway of the first room. The lamp stood by the bed of a sleeping mother and her newborn infant. Quietly Vasudeva bent down and exchanged the children. To the herdsman's wife he gave the divine child, and from her to the herdsman wife he gave the divine child, and from her side he took her little daughter. Once more he bent down and kissed that pearly forehead. Then, with a last lingering look at the baby's beloved face, he slowly backed out of the door. His sense of desolation after leaving the child was so great that he knew not where he went and cared less. Mayadeva, the goddess of illusion who lay in his arms, had to direct his footsteps so that he crossed the river once again, reached the dungeon in the city of Mathura, and gave Yashoda's baby girl to his own wife, Devaki. He returned to the pillar and found himself once more in chains. The door of all the buildings remained bolted and barred as before. Hardly had he put the child in Devaki's lap than she began to squall at the top of her voice. The guards jumped up in haste and went running to Kamsa, carrying the news of Devaki's delivery. They had orders to wake him up at whatever hour of the day or night the baby was born. Sword in hand, without his kingly ornaments, he rushed to the dungeon with disheveled hair and crumpled clothes, his feet stumbling on the path. "Where is he?" he shouted. "Where is that... Where is that puling, mewling babe? It is better to kill the cobra's young in the nest before it can grow up to kill me." "But it's a girl," she moaned, "and deserves to be spared." "Oh, brother, you have killed so many of my children, all brilliant like flames. Spare me at least this one, a daughter. Am I not your sister? The prophecy mentioned a boy, and this is a girl. What harm can she do to you? Return her to me, therefore, I beg of you." In spite of her piteous appeals, Kamsa snatched the baby from her bosom and said, "It's some trick of Vishnu, the master trickster. Girl or boy, what do I care? I'll see her in hell first." So saying, he grasped the tiny feet and swung the baby around in order to dash her down on the rock already bathed with the blood of 600... So saying, he grasped the tiny feet and swung the baby around in order to dash her down on the rock already bathed with the blood of 6 other children. But as he lifted the child aloft, she slipped from his grasp and flew into the air. And as he looked up in surprise, he saw the beauteous 8-handed form of the goddess, decked in celestial garlands and ornaments, and armed with many weapons in each of her hands, shining above him. She declared in a laughing musical voice, "O fool, what use is it to kill me? Your killer has already been born. He lives within the radius of 10 miles. I have spared you today since you caught hold of my feet. Because of that, I bless you, O Kamsa, with death at the hands of the Lord Vishnu, the giver of eternal life." I'm going to read that again. "O fool, what use is it to kill me? Your killer has already been born. He lives within a radius of 10 miles. I have spared you today since you caught hold of my feet," which is a sign of respect. "Because of that, I bless you, O Kamsa, with death at the hands of Lord Vishnu, the giver of eternal life." So saying, the Yogamaya of the Lord disappeared and manifested herself under different names in other parts of the world. Kamsa was sunk in gloom and decided to release his sister and her husband and to beg their pardon for his atrocities. At daybreak, however, he sent for his evil counselors, who advised him to kill all the babies in the outlying districts, as well as all the holy men, for Vishnu is said to hide in the hearts of the holy. Being thus advised by his vicious ministers, he sunk himself into that infernal crime of infanticide and harassment of the virtuous, and let loose a reign of terror unparalleled in the history of the world. The persecution of the virtuous leads to man's absolute ruin. It annihilates his longevity, good fortune, reputation, and his prospects in the hereafter. Lord Narayana is the supreme reality known as Brahman. Narayana is the highest self. Narayana is the supreme light. Narayana is the infinite self. Narayana is the greatest meditator as well as the supreme object of meditation. And that's from the Rig Veda. And whatever in this world is known through perception or report, all that is pervaded by Narayana within and without. Also from the Rig Veda. And the chapter ends with Hari Om Tat Sat. So, Hari Om Tat Sat. That was a short chapter.